So I would say from the time I've been here, this is a congregation that's actually pretty good at trying to notice the good in other people. And yet it's still something that we have to work on, because the reality is that challenging things happen, right? And we can't just put on Pollyanna eyes and say, what, everything's perfect. That's just not possible. So we have to be able to find ways to constructively address things, and yet with eyes of love. You know, in public discourse, everything is about noticing the things that the other guy did wrong, right? And they're all bad, not partly bad. Everything they do is bad. But that's just a reflection of the way the human mind works. We often are kind of schizophrenic, you know, just sort of, oh, you're great, you're wonderful. And it's when we get here that it gets to be problematic. And like I was saying to the children, the thing is, we do that with the people we really care about. We do that back and forth. And you'd think with the people we love, well, those are the people we'd cut them a break, right? But when we're feeling defensive, when we feel like somehow our territory has been infringed on, we get into that super protective mode, and we lose sight of the good in those people around us. I want to look at a couple of spiritual principles to guide our thinking about this. The first one is, the essence of loving the neighbor is not loving a person, but the good in that person. When you love the person, you say, I love you right or wrong. I support you right or wrong. And what that often means is, I'm actually just enabling dysfunctional behavior. I'm supporting hurtful things. But what we're called on to do is to look for the good in the person that we care about and connect to that. Because I want you to think about this. You don't change anyone, ever. Right? All you can do is, from the good in you, speak to the good in them, and from that good, they will work on their junk, and they will start to address it. So we've all been browbeaten, told how terribly we're doing things. How did that go? Inspired to change? And then we've had people who have said, yeah, I know life's hard. I know that you're really struggling right now, but I really believe in you, and what can I do to help? Or something like that, where someone you have the sense that this person actually believes in me. They're looking for what is good. And that just makes a world of difference, doesn't it? Now, to be fair, sometimes someone can call you out pretty harshly, and you know it was done from love. So sometimes that works. But what I'm talking about now is our own internal response when we lose track of the good. There's a great story when Philip had been called by the Lord to be one of his disciples. He went to Nathanael and said, I just met Jesus of Nazareth. Could this be the one? Could he be the Messiah? And Nathanael's response was, can anything good come out of Galilee? I mean, think about that in today's world. Can Republicans do anything good? Can Democrats do anything good? You know, it's that kind of just sort of blanket statement. It's all one way or another. And he went with Philip, and when the Lord saw him coming, he said, behold, an Israelite who is without deceit. So Nathanael was coming in a pretty doubting mode. He was not in an open state, and yet the Lord looked at the good in him, and because of that, was able to lead Nathanael to see that there was something bigger. Could have focused on the black cloud hanging over Nathanael's head, but he didn't. And this is the essence of a really important teaching that probably you've heard before. And it is the explanation of the story when Ham, the grandson of Noah, saw his grandfather drunk and passed out, naked in his tent, and he mocked him rather than tried to help him. And in explanation of that attitude, we read, such people see nothing but errors and perversities residing in a person. And that's what happens when we just notice the wrong. We just see nothing but the errors and perversities, right? And then your breathing too loud starts to work its way in because we just start to add all the other things that are negative that we see. But those who have faith coming from charity are different. They notice the goods, and if they do see evils and falsities, they excuse them, and if possible, endeavor with that person to correct them. I love that last phrase. They excuse the evil, and at the same time, endeavor with that person to correct the evil. So they're not papering over and saying, evil, what evil? They're seeing it, but they're seeing it from the perspective of, I bet that person didn't really want to be like that. So they're excusing in the sense of not saying this is the sum total of that person. And that attitude is symbolized by Shem and Japheth, Noah's sons, putting a blanket over their shoulders and walking backward into the tent to cover their father. The fact that they were not looking is symbolized by not paying attention to, not noticing, not dwelling on the behavior that was inappropriate. But they did have eyes for a solution, right? They were looking to the good. They were looking to what was constructive in that situation. So there's this both and that goes on. When you look to the good, then you can look to something constructive. You can address the issue without just saying, in effect, what an idiot. So we get this very powerful one-line statement in Secrets of Heaven or Arcana Celestia. It is not angelic to seek for the evil in a person unless we at the same time seek for the good. So there it is. You want to be an angel, don't look for the bad, don't notice the bad unless you're also willing to notice the good. And you notice that it used the word seek for. So, you walk in past, you're walking down the street and you see someone driving badly. You're going to say, that person's driving badly. And then you move on to look at the flowers. But if 3 minutes later you're still thinking about that person driving badly, then you are seeking out the behavior. So this is talking about things that we dwell on. So if you want to notice, dwell on, pay attention to what is wrong, dwell on, pay attention to what is good. And I think it's pretty clear that they have to be parallel goods. You can't say she's a horrible person, but she has beautiful handwriting. And you can't say, Mussolini was a murderous, horrible person, but he made the trains run on time. Those aren't parallel goods, right? So, if you care enough to dwell on something that's wrong, care enough to dwell on something that is good. Do it in the political realm. Pick someone you think is wrecking the country by what they're doing. Stop, find things that you think are benefiting the country. And if you can't do that, then don't dwell on that person, because that's not angelic. Find the other side. Find what is good. But way more importantly, do this with the people that you care about, with the people who are getting under your skin, the people that you interact with. Dwell on, notice the good, and hold your attention on the good. Not ignoring what's wrong, but keeping them both in mind at the same time. It's a really different situation, isn't it? Notice the tender, idealistic, loving parts of that person. And that's the difference between, how could you say that to, you don't normally talk to me that way, what's up? Very different conversation coming out of those two statements, isn't there? So one more thought that kind of ties this together, I think, and that is the teaching that when we notice good in another, we're really noticing the Lord in that person, the Lord's presence. And what a gift to be going through our daily lives looking for the Lord in situations, and especially looking for the Lord in situations or in people when it's not evident. Because wouldn't you like that if someone did that to you? Because we're all pretty unangelic at times, right? And isn't it wonderful when somebody is willing to see through that temporary morass and see the Lord that is often in you and that is in you deep inside? What a gift. So Joseph was betrayed by his brothers. He was a slave. He was a prisoner. And eventually he had power over his brothers. And after their father died, they came to him and said, basically, please don't take revenge on us. And Joseph looked at them and he said, do not be afraid, for am I in the place of God? But as for you, you meant evil against me, but God meant it for good. There it is, friends. Both of them together, right? I see that intent, and I see the Lord in this situation. And because of that, I'm able to act from the Lord. So notice the harm, absolutely. Notice the malice. Notice the insensitivity. But focus on, dwell on the good in that person before you end up interacting. Still going to end up having to be firm quite a lot, but you'll do it from love, and that will make all the difference. Amen. Let's do our second hymn now.